Welcome back to the Stay Broke podcast. Today is a special episode. I'm back where I grew up, and we're going to be meeting with Paul McCall and Greg Mcneish from All About Ground Covering. And today we get to talk about how hard it is to find something better in a small town and deal with workforce issues and build something where you don't have a lot of people or a lot of distribution. So it's going to be an interesting interview, something different that we're going to talk about today. So here we are at the nursery, and we're in Grove City, Pennsylvania. So let's get into it. Thanks for joining us, guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So we're just going to start off with, who are you guys and where are you from? Tell us a little bit about where you came from and a little bit of your background.
My name's Paul McCall. I still live in the same township that my mom was born in because she was the last sibling to be born on the family farm, which is an urban township in Pennsylvania. Went to Franklin High School. I wanted to become self-employed, or knew I wanted to be self-employed about 10th grade. But I went to school for carpentry, thinking I was going to be a carpenter. But once I had a job at Stomer Nurseries when I was young, I realized that was something that I could do as I got out of high school, because I was just good with working with my hands and cutting good numbers, because when you're in the nursery business, it's all about counting your pennies, and I was good with counting pennies.
Awesome. And Greg?
Yeah, real similar story, born and raised within 30 miles of here, so neither one of us have strayed very far. We met working for a greenhouse company when we were younger, and then it just kind of accidentally transitioned into doing it for ourselves.
I know, like I said, this is where I'm from, and I know the challenges to growing up here. Paul, I know a little bit of your story because, we're family. Greg, this is my first time meeting you. But, one of my issues growing up here, and I think one of the bigger issues growing up here, is there's not really anything to do, and it's so easy to get lost up here and have no real direction. And I know I had my issues with substances and stuff like that, and it, I really struggled to figure out how I was going to get a path forward, and I was able to find my way out of it. Did you guys have any of those similar issues up here?
I would say the area that we live in, to find a decent paying job, I would say would have been kind of tough without leaving, say, go to Pittsburgh or to Youngstown, whatever, because our areas is just, when we were younger, is just filled with a lot of small family farms, which I know now are almost non-existent. You know what I mean? When I was younger, trying to get started, there was families were milking 40, 50 head of cattle. Now, if you're in that kind of line of work, you're milking a lot more. But I didn't want to travel to Pittsburgh when I was younger, I guess. So I did work for Stomer Nurseries for 7 or 8 years to get mine started, to make a better path for my family.
So you had a pretty clear path forward. What was something that, you said realized you were an entrepreneur when you were 10 or 10th grade?
10th grade, yeah.
What transpired that made you say, I'm not like everybody else around here. I need to be doing something different.
I knew I wanted to be self-employed when I was 10th grade. I really knew that. I had that in the back of my mind from a young age, but I thought it was going to be in the carpentry world, But I know once I started working with Stomer Nurseries, because I worked for them for a little bit when I was younger, then worked for a family farm, and then went back to the nursery business. So then when I went back to the nursery, I was already going on 19 years old. That's when I learned how I could, it took me a year to learn that I had the ability to work faster with my hands, cutting plants or pulling plants, bundling plants. And that's what drove me to be what I do today. But, it's
was there somebody that was an influence that you saw that was working for themselves aside from all the farmers? So
No. I would say at Stomer Nurseries, when I was young like that, working for Stomer Nurseries, they said if you wanted to make more money, you can do this for us. We will buy myrtle plums off of you, or we'll go buy ivy cuttings or euonymus cuttings. So that's what drove that. And then I was driving over to Ohio to a college gathering plant, and that's how I all got started. And then at that point, then I built like some cold frames in my backyard to get to where I can start doing the juga cuttings, because that's something that you couldn't gather, it's something that you had to grow. And then, that's where once I started doing the juga cuttings, that was what led me into having my first greenhouse. And then one greenhouse led to three, and then three led to five. But then also because that was what we did in the beginning, I was selling everything to one person. And the biggest regret I have about all that, getting started into the nursery business, is having all my eggs in one basket selling to one person. That's where I made the biggest mistake at being an entrepreneur, getting started into the nursery industry, was that.
Well, that's an easy thing to do, though, because you get somebody that's throwing a little bit of money at you. It's so easy to focus on them, making sure you're giving them the best experience.
Right.
Not mess that up.
Right.
I've been there too.
So the nursery that we was dealing with, he pushed me to do more, because his wording was, I wish I had 10 guys like you. If I had 10 guys like you, I wouldn't have no need to have greenhouses. But then it took like one bad year to realize that that was not good.
Yeah.
So back in 2000, Greg and I went out onto the open market, and I wish I would have done that from the very beginning, and then we would have been much further ahead in life than where we are now. But
So I tell people that I'm from a small town, and they'll be like, "Oh, I am too. I'm from this town in North Carolina. We're only about 14,000 people." And I'm like, "Oh, so you're from the city, right?"
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up as close to Grove City. I grew up closer to Sandy Lake, which is population about 700.
Yeah.
Hendersonville, where the family farm is, you got about 60 people probably.
Yeah, not many, right?
Yeah. So trying to explain how far out we really are.
Yeah.
I remember side story, we got married up here because our family didn't travel real well.
Yeah.
So we got married up here in New Wilmington, and we stayed at your mom's house. And I remember my wife was trying to get all this stuff sent up here for the wedding, and she's like, "Do you guys get mail out here?"
Yeah, it is really. It's a challenge for sure.
So how'd you end up at the nursery or getting into that? Did you do any?
Paul and I met working together at a nursery, and I initially started working for him, as he had already kind of started doing his own thing. And unfortunately, he was smarter than I was, because while I was working for him, I was getting paid. And he's like, "Hey, you want to be my partner? So then you can stop getting paid too." So we became partners, and really, he led the charge for a lot of years, and got us to where we were, and focusing on the infrastructure and the building of the greenhouses and all of that stuff. So
how did you guys see that there was an opportunity to sell, I guess, on a corporate level, right? Who are your clients, first off? Who do you guys sell to?
mostly big wholesalers, big landscapers.
Okay.
We do have a handful of retail garden centers. It's just not really what we do. It's big landscapers, big wholesalers.
Okay. Because everything around here is so small, never really leaving. How did you guys see that there was opportunity? Because I got stuck in the bubble, the goldfish effect, right? All I saw what was around me until I got out with the military and then did some other stuff. And then I saw there's a whole nother world of opportunity out there. How did you guys see that while being stuck here?
I would say that knowledge is money, and I just had the knowledge of being in the industry, being in it so long. I'd seen that. I seen what's possible.
We saw the demand for what we do by working over there.
Yeah,
there was a big company when we worked there.
Yeah.
And they were successful and moving a lot of plants. Yeah. So that's what drove us to get started into it initially. And then once we went to the trade show, kind of similar situation. We had, our world's this big. We go to a trade show, it's wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap, look at all these people doing this. You know what I mean? This can really be something. And, slowly it turned into something. Yeah,
we used to own a mant show in Baltimore, which we still do. And then there was the pant show in Columbus, Ohio until it quit. So most of the stuff that we grow is the closest customers we usually have or like Pittsburgh, but even though it's not like a big market for us, most of our stuff goes to Ohio now, which is a much bigger market for us.
Right. So, labor force, like, I know a lot of the people that grew up here are either moving out or, there's definitely issues where a whole generation of people, it seems like, won't come to work. And like, you guys, how did you guys deal with that?
So back in the day when we were looking to expand outside of like our spouses, because we had our spouse, it was us and our spouses and a couple close friends. And then being said we lived near Amish community, several Amish communities. I had one of an Amish guy say, "Hey, I have a couple daughters that are looking for some work," and that's how we got started into the Amish community, using them for our workforce. And for the last 30 or 35 years, it has worked out quite well. Using them as our workforce, because it is hard to find younger kids that actually want to get their hands dirty in our line of work. I mean, not everybody.
It's actually been a blessing for us being here.
Yes.
Where a lot of your typical businesses would struggle finding help. Younger Amish girls are perfect for what we do. The production repetitiveness of what we do seems to work and fit well with females in general.
A little more,
yeah, it just fits them better. The
better
guys
with their hands and
guys want to dig a ditch, swing a hammer, or whatever.
Right.
So we're really lucky to have that resource. And honestly, if we weren't in the middle of nowhere, we probably wouldn't have that resource.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So that one way has been beneficial to us. It was nice being here because land was cheap, labor is affordable, whereas other places is not. So, sometimes things don't always, you don't realize they're going to work out in your favor, but for us, it has.
Yeah. Well, it's having that optimism or like being open to seeing things that other people aren't. Like, it's so easy to get caught up in like, oh, I'm from this little crappy town where there's no opportunity and nothing to do and nobody makes any money, and just sit and sulk. Or you can find the opportunities that nobody else is finding. Has there been any, like, I know, so we grew up with Amish and, with Amish communities. Amish people are a daily part of our lives, but most people don't know that. All they see is what's on TV, and a lot of that might be Mennonites or whatever.
Right.
So I know it's probably a little bit more natural for you guys, but was there any, like, cultural differences or any things that you had to overcome to be able to be sensitive to like their religion or anything, or they just kind of come in, blend in, and get the job done?
I think that, over the years, there hasn't been many issues, but there's been times like with radios and just little things. And so you have to respect and embrace their culture and implement that in the workforce, or else they will not work for you.
Right. I was more like, far as like the Amish community with our workforce, I was more of the PR guy, because I was the one going out either door knocking and asking for more people to come to work for us. Because if a community, say, like, dried up, for lack of a better word, because there was your girl, as they grow up, the girls get married, 17, 18, 19 years old. And a lot of years, as someone was getting married, they knew of a friend who wanted to come to work. So for a while, they was filling their own shoes as far as for our workforce. And then, then sometimes, when you would run out of girls in a certain community, so I would start going into another community. That's where I'd introduce myself and knock on doors to keep our workforce going and stuff like that. And then now, so like 30, 35 years later, we just have like an ongoing like rotation through the communities to keep up with our girls. That's how we've done it to be able to do what we still do today. And what we do in the nursery is definitely like a younger person's job. You know what I mean? As far as, because if you're cutting plants, you're usually on your knees, cutting close to the ground, or if you're sticking flats at a table, you got to carry it in, you got to put them on the floor or whatever. So it's a lot of like, it's a young person's job, and the Amish done, and girls in particular, whether it's Amish or English, just girls in particular seem to like working with plants much better than men,
We're actually starting to see that workforce become more of a challenge for us, because there's a lot more competitiveness for their time. And like, a lot of people use them for cleaning house and to clean their homes, this, that, the other. Plus, even the Amish community, their family sizes are getting smaller.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them are having 2, 3 kids instead of 10.
Yeah.
So, you know, you combine the smaller, they're moving out of the area, and then they're having smaller families. There's more competition for them. So it's becoming a little bit more difficult for us to get them.
And then they're running a lot more of their own businesses these days too, right? I know whenever I left here, they were buying up a lot of land and a lot of sawmills and different things like that.
Yeah, I think Amish, like, even if their dad has, like either a farm or a lumber business or a carpentry business, they all have a second job where they do something at home. You mean either growing vegetables or growing pumpkins, or going out doing carpentry work, but coming back to where they have like a small tack shop, stuff like that. So that it tends to keep some of the girls busy where we can't draw help from those families.
Okay. How do you guys deal with distribution? Like, how far out are you guys traveling? Like,
far as just deliveries, it really wasn't unheard of for us to go 600 miles in one direction. But we try, as we've grown, we've gotten customers closer. So overall, most of our deliveries now are within 300 miles, or just a little over. We've got our circle down a little bit. Because we don't like going to 600 miles deliveries, but we will do it if need be.
We're still learning on the go. I mean, when we were young and hungry and wanted to sell plants, we would travel to the end of the earth to sell plants and did, regularly. And then just as the company grew and our customer base grew, we were able to shrink that range, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But now we're actually expanding our delivery range again because we have learned that there are other avenues for us to get our plants to those people other than us delivering them.
Yeah.
We don't want to deliver that far anymore, but we now ship on freight trucks and things of that nature, which have been there forever. We just didn't know about it,
right.
Didn't utilize it. Okay. So, we worked so hard to get all these customers only to say, we don't want you anymore. And then now we're actually going out and chasing them again. So, you just always learning.
We customize building our own pallets to ship our material out, or a Sprinter van, or we UPS orders. So some of our customers that we used to deliver to now take bare root. People that used to bump things up. Instead of buying a peat pod, they'll buy a bare root plant to bump it up into a bigger container for their sales for the following year.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
So what kind of plants are we talking about? Like, you think of ground cover, I think of vine, ivy, that kind of stuff. Is that is that it?
That is exactly what we do. Yeah. On the ground cover side of things, I think we only offer maybe 11 varieties of plants, something along that nature. We do also grow a bunch of perennials that we sell specifically to the landscape market.
I gotcha. How do you guys? So you said you use UPS. How many trucks do you guys have, and who do you have driving those these days?
We just have 4 box trucks, and we have a driver that drives them for us, and then we have Paul does some drive-in, or sometimes we'll recruit a secondary driver to help us. But other than peak busy season, one guy can handle it. We do deliver most of our own material.
Yeah, just in the springtime for a couple months, it gets a little hectic to where it takes maybe 2 drivers, but a lot of nurseries, as far as for what we do, have retired truck drivers, because nursery business is more of a seasonal thing. Even though we sell probably 10 months out of the year now, but it's still on the delivery side of vehicles, it's more about the spring, sporadic a little bit through the summer, and then it picks up a little bit more in the fall.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I know all the people I know in construction up here, all that stuff, it's all seasonal, and they end up off for a couple months or during the winter or whatever. Yeah. Do you guys completely shut down, or is there stuff that you're doing all year round?
We're constantly growing and sticking and potting plants all year round. We only shut down typically for Christmas and New Year's, just for people who want to spend their time with family, especially the Amish. So and then that's the bulk of our workforce. So pretty much everybody has those 2 weeks off to enjoy the holidays. So that's how it works out for us. But I mean, if you went back, 10, 15 years, we would shut down for 2 months or 3 months because we didn't have, probably 15 years ago, I think it's been since we've been working like around the clock now because of, it's all about building the nursery up for like 1 greenhouse to 5 to 9 to now we have like 60, greenhouses. And we used to do fuel oil heat, so it was a lot more expensive to heat with fuel oil. Now we have more greenhouses and and they're connected. It's more efficient to do the natural gas, when we got to afford to get the natural gas up the driveway, that's when we started working more around the clock and realized what we can do.
Not just as a company, things have changed. We used to be 100% exclusively ground cover.
Yeah.
And so then as the company's grown and we've expanded into different markets, it gives us more work, different work available different times of the year. I mean, when we were just doing ground cover, we plowed snow for many years.
Yeah.
Right.
To keep the lights on because we weren't selling plants in the wintertime.
Yeah. So we're potting plants for like the landscapers because they're asking us, or telling us that they need certain plants for certain jobs. So then we're growing those plants for those customers. So, which has helped out with more of our winter work.
So it's a lot of I know down where we're at, like the towns dictate what plants that people can plant. It's especially in the new construction. So you see a lot of the same plants getting put in over and over again. Are you guys dealing with that kind of stuff where you see them using like the same kind of plants over and over again, or is it continue to shift? Or
yeah, I mean, the industry itself has trends. Typically, the landscape architects lead the charge in that. So whatever, a lot of times they're speccing native plants because that's just like now there's a big pollinator thing. So everybody's doing stuff that bees, can use. But yes, I mean, we do sell and grow a lot of the same plant. A lot of landscapers use the same plant because they know that's a good plant. They know it's going to grow and they know they're not going to have to replace it. So they plant that same one on every job. It's just, I think just a really, because it works.
Yeah. When we were in the wholesale market, we thought more varieties, more opportunity to make money. But, that was not really a good way of going about it because it's tough tying up your space. If you could have sold more Pachysandra, why you want to grow hens and chicks if you can grow more Pachysandra? So we used to grow a lot more varieties years ago, but we're just cutting things back to where we have like the main staples of the plants that we grow now to make money.
so you said you guys started when? When did you guys?
My first greenhouse was in '89.
So I think you declared a business name in '93.
I declared a business name in '93, but I think the first greenhouse I had was like in '89, my first one.
Okay.
And then '93 is when we got noticed also by the state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And you had to be a little more above the table than below the table. '93. That's when we got noticed. So I think we had 9 greenhouses, and we got it was an interesting day when they showed up at the property.
Well, clearly this isn't just a hobby.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It went from a side hustle to this is the real thing now. We got to start running it like a business.
Right. And what do you mean now?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just so caught up in work and trying to make a dollar that you don't understand or realize that you are a legitimate company.
Yeah.
Hey, wow, we're a company.
Yeah.
We just are 2 guys out trying to make a buck.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I'd say the only thing that drove me to do what I'm doing is just because I was good at it and my upbringing. So it drove me to do better. Now, the only struggles now that Greg and I are going through, or what I'm going through because I'm 8 years older, is that trying to hand it down to my kids, and it's trying to get them to understand what we did to get it started and trying to understand what it takes to still keep it going and you know what I mean? And try and learn from our mistakes so they don't have to repeat those mistakes on their own. That's the next struggle we're going through right now. Because I was always on about keeping the nursery, neat and tidy, and my youngest son's not so neat and tidy as I'd like to see him be and stuff like that. But trying to, again, like you said before, that not everybody's wanting to be can be an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? Either you have it or you don't. So it's a hard thing to realize that my kids may are not really interested in really doing it long term. I don't think, so we're just waiting to see what Greg's kids do with it.
That's what I was going to ask. You have kids as well?
Oh yeah, I have an older one. He doesn't want to do it. He's a dentist, which is hard to feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And then I have 3 younger kids too, but we'll see. See what the future holds.
Yeah. My oldest daughter, she's really didn't want to come work with me at all, and then finally gave into it between her junior and senior year, and ended up finding out that she really likes some of the stuff that we do, and she stole my camera, and now she's doing her own thing, you know what I mean? And like
Right.
she helps us with our websites and stuff like that, but she has no interest in being an entrepreneur, mainly because she's seen me and she thinks about like when I come home in a bad mood, or like when I was struggling, or like, you know, she's watched me go through all this emotion and the ups and downs of it, and she's like, I don't want to live like that.
That's exactly what my oldest said. He says, God bless you, Dad. You've done wonderful. You provided a great life. But I do not want to have to go through what you've been through to get there.
Yeah.
So, and it's in a backwards way that provided him the motivation he needed to go become something else.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know with my younger kids, especially my son, he's really getting into it. He wants to come to work with me, wants to be in the office, wants to learn how to do stuff.
Yeah.
Now that we're doing this stuff, he's like holding the camera, and like, you know, we started making him fill out a timesheet, and you know, he'll get a little paycheck for it. And he's 9, but he's just those little things. I'm hoping will keep him going in the right direction to want to do this stuff, but who knows? Who knows where it's going to end up down the road? But that's like we were talking about before we started the interview. Is like everybody's dealing with that. And that's kind of the foundation for us starting a consulting company. Everybody's trying to figure, all right, my kids don't want to do it. What am I going to do with this business? And how do I retire now?
Yeah, that's just, I think, a struggle is that when you're running a company, knowing the end game is that, you know, because, you can work it and provide yourself a great income. But throughout that process, are you able to create a company that has value as a company?
Yeah, to be able to sell it as a company, because Greg and I, we are the company, you know what I mean? So it's
so what we have are assets, but we don't want to sell those assets.
Right.
So it's a great job. It pays, it makes a good living. But do we want to sell the land we live on? I want to sell my house.
Yeah, exactly.
So, maybe we would have done it on a property we didn't live on, had we thought, thinking more long term when we were working, like, okay, we aren't going to do this forever. So let's create something somewhere that is of value to sell to someone.
Yeah. Like the nursery. So we bought 108 acres together. And then as we built our houses, we each subdivided and took 10 acres. But, like we live back along driveway where it's a nice private area to grow up. There's no road noise. There's basically like no noise at all, It would have been nice if we would have had the foresight to buy 6 or 8 acres somewhere away from our homes and build the business up, and then be able to have something that would be easier to sell.
Yeah, where you can sell the whole thing, property, everything.
Easier to get away from.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Which is tough as well.
Yeah. But now it's like, with the greenhouses, we drive past them every day just coming into our homes, because I wanted the nursery out front. So I didn't have the traffic for the nursery coming past our homes. I wanted to be the guy coming past the nursery to get to the home.
Yeah, that makes it hard to turn it off then, right? Because you're always
It
thinking
does.
about it.
It's good and bad, whatever. It makes it very easy, very convenient to just walk down there and do whatever and then come back. So you're not always gone away from home, but then it's too convenient to walk down there. So,
I've always got myself in trouble, like working too much, because it's just, a couple 100 yards to the nursery. So even though it's a Saturday or Sunday or after hours, but getting started into the nursery business until we got to the stage right now, it's kind of like milking cows. Plants always need water. It doesn't matter if it's Saturday or Sunday. Cows need milk 2 times a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
With the nursery business, there's always something that needs done 7 days a week down there. It doesn't matter if there's nobody down there.
I think it's hard when you're self-employed to know when to say when's enough. Like when you're hungry and the bills need paid, and it's just, if I work more, I'll make more, everything will be better.
Yeah.
But the older you get, eventually you realize, you know what, it can wait till tomorrow. And it can. And then you look back and you're like, wow, you know what? I'm not working 100 hours a week and everything's still just fine. But until you get on the other side of the street, you can't, it's hard to have that perspective. Just more is better, more is better, more is better. Yeah. So you end up just working all the time. And what struggle with that is like, we enjoy what we do. So I don't even look at it as work.
Right.
So I don't care that I'm doing it 80 hours a week. I like it. I'm having, we're hanging out. Yeah, we might be down there, but we're joking around, goofing around, and having fun. And so, like, it didn't even feel like a burden. And I was here, wasn't away from home. So, it made it so easy.
And back when we was getting started, it did make it convenience for some of our smaller landscapers when they come in. Okay, they wanted to come in after hours, so it didn't matter as long as I knew when they were coming. It was instead of just a 5-minute walk down or take care of them and get back to the house. It was no big deal. So living close by to the nursery was a convenience factor. But I still wish we could have done something a little different for us for away from our homes, for resale value of looking at the age that we are now.
Yeah.
I didn't have that foresight to see that. But I'm happy with where I'm at today in life. Being self-employed, definitely the upside is you can choose your time that you want to work. You have control of your hours that you want to work for the most part. If you want to go away on vacation, you can. But, everybody says when you're self-employed, you don't have a boss. Well, that's complete bullshit. You do have a boss. Your boss is your customers.
Yeah.
So,
and your employees.
We must have taken a different path. I don't know if I've ever had control of my hours.
I kind of.
We do now, but I promise you, it hasn't always been.
Yeah, we do now have control of our hours. There was a lot of times it was a lot of work getting started.
And then the nice is the freedom of being self-employed is, if they're having donuts with dad, you can attend that in the morning.
Yeah.
And then just work later in the day.
Yeah.
Or hey, I need to do this in the afternoon, and then you can still do your job in the evening or whatever. We do have stuff day to day that has to be done. Luckily, we have employees that handle the majority.
The last 15 years of doing the nursery work has been pretty easy for the most part because we've been through all of our reconstruction, having computers to do the watering. We don't plow snow anymore. We don't mow grass. We don't landscape. So the last 15 years has been really nice for the wintertime. It can kind of run itself.
Yeah.
But but you still have to stop in for a little bit during the day or every other day.
But you get to actually enjoy what you've built. I know you were just in Colorado and you're getting ready to go back out there. Having the opportunity to do stuff like that. You can't do that if you're working a 9 to 5. You can't get away for a couple of weeks.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, the freedoms of being self-employed. They do come at a high cost sometimes, but if you value freedom, self-employed is the only way.
Yeah. Once you make it there, though, so many people get stuck in that, they never get past that point where they are there all day, every day. They are the business. If they're not there, there's no money being made. And
it's hard. When you're self-employed, I think, you kind of have that, I don't know, for lack of a better way of saying, control freak. You have to be interested in being involved and knowing what's going on to every piece of the puzzle. And it's hard to give up control of that. But if you don't ever walk away or stand back, then you don't get the freedom. So, employees are great because without them, you don't have freedom. And then if you don't have employees, the machine stops moving when you're not there.
Right.
So, they say, well, it's a pain in the butt having to deal with this, deal with that. It is, but, it's the only way.
Yeah. Delegation's the way to freedom. That's the only way to get there.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do, but once you finally hit that point of all right, I know the stuff's going to get done. It might not get done the way I want it done, or I would do it myself, but the end result's going to be the same. And I know once I accepted that, I was able to really move on to other things and get my time back.
Yeah. So it's really all just what your goals are. More money, or just freedom. And freedom has been our goal.
Yeah.
Freedom. Yeah.
We make a living. We have freedom. Freedom is priceless.
100%. So you guys have been doing this for a long time. What are some things that you look back and you're like, man, I can't believe we survived that? Or Like I'm sure you've seen a lot.
From my perspective, making money is relatively easy, for lack of a better way of saying it. That, I mean, if you're willing to get to work and go to work, you can make some money. Learning how to spend it, hard. Learning to be a businessman, hard. We didn't know anything about being in business. We didn't know anything about taxes and payroll and IRS and we didn't know any of that stuff. And I promise you, we have learned all of it the hard way.
Yeah.
So, like, had we had a mentor or a consultant or someone to help direct us throughout our journey, we would have been able to skip a lot of potholes.
Yeah.
But, we just focused on working.
And a lot of payments to the IRS.
Go to work, make more money.
Unnecessary payments to the IRS because of the way we was doing their bookkeeping.
You don't have. I mean, there's a big dynamic of being in business is learning how to properly spend your money. You work all year, you buy yourself a nice truck, you buy this and that. At the end of the year, you're broke. You're like, it's great. Now all of a sudden, you're like, you owe taxes. What do you mean? I don't have any money. How could I owe taxes?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? But you got to learn how to properly spend your money. And tracking expenses and just every step of the way. It's easy to get lost in the I'm working, I'm making money, but you may not really be making money. You got to pay attention and know that you're profitable.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught up in the just earn and not realize what you are really earning,
It's just trying to have the right people working for us to where we know we're making money, because when we started, we were doing everything. We were doing the production, we're doing the watering, loading the trucks. We were doing it all, Say we were both good at our job. But now when you go from, one greenhouse to 3 to 5, now you're needing people. And getting those people to have the same drive, and stuff like that to be more, and trying to teach them how to be efficient. It was a struggle, a big struggle.
Nobody's ever going to have that. I mean, no matter what you give to them or how well you pay them, in my experience, they're never going to see it as their own and be willing to give it their all. Like it's just something that I know it's something I've struggled with.
Learning to be a boss is a challenge too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just learning how to get people to want to do it well.
Yeah, you can never lose your mind. You always have to approach them with the person that's your difficult person. You have to pick your words, treat them with respect, and try to persuade them with your words how to do things better. And that's been that still happens to this day, especially with my kids.
Well, it's funny because it goes full circle, right? We talk about this generation of entrepreneurs. They've went through all these struggles, and now they're trying to pass that down to the next generation and try and prevent them from going through all these bumps and hiccups, and then wondering why they can't get motivated. Right. But what did you guys learn the most from? Was it the victories or was it the mistakes?
Right.
Yeah. And it's like everybody likes to ask, like, if you could go back and tell yourself anything or go back and change anything, like, man, I went through some crap, but like, I don't know if I'd change any of it because it got me where I'm at. It gave me the ability to do what I do and to see things the way I see it. And it's like, I feel like in some ways I'm stealing that from my kids, by giving them all this extra stuff. So trying to find that balance of like, all right, it doesn't have to be as hard, but you need to struggle a little bit.
You need to struggle when you're growing up. I would say, like, you got to learn to live with nothing when when I started out in the nursery business, I had a 10 by 50 trailer, wife and 2 kids in a 10 by 50. That's a small mobile home. I did it, you know what I mean? But the biggest thing is to learn on next to nothing, to live on next to nothing. Because the money you're making, you still need to put back into the company. And one of the biggest mistakes I think I made when I was young is that I had a 79 Ford pickup truck. It was running the white one. It was running back and forth to Ohio. But one day it decided to quit moving. Not being mechanically inclined, it was a universal going out in the drive shaft. Well, me being not mechanically inclined, well, shit, I need to go get a new truck. I'm making money. That was my biggest mistake. Buying a new pickup truck when my 79 was just getting, well, if all I would have done was put a new universal in it, I would have been fine for another who knows how many more years. And so it's, trying to like refrain from spending too much.
Yeah, until you have it. And then,
and
then you don't want to spend it because you don't want to lose.
The struggles are definitely a necessary evil.
Yeah.
everyone's going to look back and say, boy, I wish I wouldn't have had to struggle. But the struggle oftentimes provides the motivation.
Yeah.
And the struggle to transition to the next generation it just is what it is. I think we're all trying to figure out how to navigate it. And we want them to think like we do, but they're never going to.
Yeah.
We can't replicate what we went through to get them. And even if they would respond in the same way anyways, Yeah. So you just have to encourage them. And
I know, like, there's plenty of businesses out there where people can sell them, and in the family, whatever, and still make money, because it's not like it's not a nursery business. But from what we've learned being in the nursery business for like a long time, when this gets handed down and all the kids have like equal say in what goes on, but not all kids work in the business, that's where things tend to go sour for the nursery industry and trying to hand something down. So what we're trying to do now is, if the kids aren't interested in it, it goes to the kids that are interested in it. The ones that aren't just don't get a part of it because they just can't be taking something from the pot because they're not willing to help build the pot.
Yeah.
Because it's hard enough in itself just to try and run a nursery business.
We hope you're enjoying the interview so far. Thank you so much for watching. We feel so fortunate to be able to book such amazing guests as we're getting this thing going. One thing you could do to help us out is just engage with these videos. That will get it seen by a lot more people. We can spread the story so much further if you just give us a quick like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Anything you feel comfortable with would be a huge help. Enjoy the rest of the interview. Being in this area, being around all the people and kind of watching some of these towns, for lack of a better word, die. All the industries moved out and everything's kind of left. The Polk was one of the biggest employers when I was a kid, and that's pretty much shut down. Everybody in my family worked there, and watching all this stuff go down. And then you guys are here, building a good life, being successful. Is that a struggle for you guys? And do you get judgment? Because I know I do, and I'm not even here that much anymore, but I'm being judged because I chose to leave and do something different. And
you're being judged because it's what you can afford.
Yeah.
That's why you're being judged, you know? That's a hard thing to deal with sometimes when it comes to family members. That's the hardest, being judged for what you can afford. You can afford that. Well, my opinion is they could afford it too if they had the ambitious to go out and earn $1, and think outside the box.
Yeah, it would definitely be helpful to the company if there was more industry and more building and stuff going on, because we could sell locally, in 60 minutes of here instead of 3-4 hours. But we need commercial construction really is what drives us.
Yeah.
So that's not likely to come back here anytime.
Yeah, because our industry, when I was still up, Pennzoil was still here, Quaker State was still here, Joy Manufacturing was still here, Steel Car was here, or Greenfield was still up there. Greenfield's a Steel Car. Trinity was still here.
Cooper Bessemer.
Cooper Bessemer. All them big jobs. So now we still got GE here, but there's another name for it now because GE sold out. But for the most part, a lot of big industries, good paying jobs have left our area. Yes.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to watch happen, and people that have been here for their whole lives, and it'd be kind of nice to see them get up and move on and try something different. But it seems like the people that have stuck around are rooted here, and they don't want to go do anything different. And they don't look for the opportunities that are here. And it's something that I struggle with seeing from the outside. I can't imagine doing it here, being this close to everybody and watching other people struggle. And, but it's nothing to feel guilty about. But people can make you feel guilty so fast. I don't know. That's just my thing, I guess. Right now we're dealing with crepe myrtles are having a big disease to where all the nurseries aren't even selling them. I tried to buy some not too long ago, but they're getting this fungus or whatever. So a lot of the nurseries just quit carrying them over the last year or two. Have you guys dealt with anything like that? Any rampant diseases or anything that's
nothing.
No.
Occasionally, because of what we grow, being ground cover, can be pretty aggressive and invasive. So there are times when states will put a product that we carry on the invasive species list, and then we can't sell it in that state anymore.
Right.
Luckily, it hasn't really been a problem.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff do they do that with? Like, what's an example of that?
Even ivies or Euonymus coloratus, any vining stuff that if it gets out of control and they have trouble containing it, if this person planted it, next thing you know, it's over there. They're like, "Whoa, this is invasive," but it doesn't ever seem to last or stick around too long. So.
Okay. I know we deal with kudzu down in our area. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it was I believe it was brought in for like the World Fair one year. I forget where it comes from, but this stuff it can grow underneath roads and like very quickly, and it's kind of taken everything over. But now they're starting to figure out how to make like, fabrics out of it or like use it for cooking and stuff like that. But it's just like you drive down south and it's just everywhere, and it'll just eat a forest. It's crazy. Yeah. It's all along the roadways and stuff like that. And they haven't really been able to get it under control. Like they'll send trucks down the road just spraying poison out the side of the truck, essentially trying to kill it and keep it back from the roads. It's pretty wild. But they brought it in for ground cover because it's so fast growing. They brought it in to cover a certain area, and then it just
can't stop it.
Yeah, they can't stop it. Wow. Kind of like bamboo is another invasive thing down where we're at, where it's just like you put it in and you just can't get rid of it.
Yeah, so you can kind of see their perspective why they want to be careful with this kind of thing.
Yeah,
because once it's out of control, it's too late.
Yeah, because in vines, vines can climb up the side of a building, up the side of a tree. I mean, some areas they want vines to climb up a concrete wall for sound barrier along the interstate,
Yeah.
But a lot of the like coloratus and the ivies, it gets a bad name because the property that it was planted on is no longer being maintained and stuff like that. So then the ivy gets out of control because they're not trimming it, And that's how it gets.
It seems like more invasive stuff is kind of stuff that you can't prevent it from.
Yeah.
You can't keep it contained.
Yeah, abandoned properties, basically. I can see it in Pittsburgh, abandoned properties, and like if you're down south, you see Spanish moss hanging out of the trees. Well, if you go to Pittsburgh and you go to abandoned property, you got like ivy that just looks like that hanging through the whole tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why it's got on the invasive list, is what I think. Yeah, because it's hard to contain because it's not being trimmed.
You've been kind of watching my journey building this new stuff and watching some of my videos, and you called me one day and you were talking about, what are you talking about? Knowledge and investing in yourself and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't. Knowledge is money. It doesn't matter what you do. If you have knowledge of something, you can make $1 at it. It's all about having the knowledge, having the foresight in any industry.
Well, I think too many people, like you said, you thought you were going to be in, what'd you say, carpentry?
Carpentry,
and it's like, I feel like too many people get that idea, like, oh, I'm going to be in this business. I'm going to find a way into this industry instead of looking at the opportunities around them. And they'll just jump right into something with no idea what they're doing. We're going to work for somebody else and like learning as much as you can from them. There's so much value in that before jumping into things. Like you said, you probably wouldn't have ended up anywhere near the nursery business if you hadn't went to work for a nursery.
Right.
How long did you say you worked there?
Like 7-8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you took your time and learned what you could.
Yeah, I mean, during that 7-8 years, I'd say like the last 6 years that I worked there, I was selling them plants, and I was actually making more money selling them plants than I was bringing home in a paycheck for the most part. But I had other women working for me, bundling myrtle and stuff like that. I had to pay back out of that and stuff. But I seen the foresight, you know what I mean? And then, and I seen like learning how they used to do Juga divisions and stuff like that. And I could do it from a cutting, and I started doing that. Honestly, it's hard to describe, but like the knives, that one podcast that you did, that guy had the foresight to know that he can do that. That's why, I mean, it doesn't matter what business, it's just having the foresight, and that foresight is actually dollars in your bank.
Yeah. I think not getting in a hurry either. If you're trying to build something that's going to last for 30 plus years, then why do you got to rush into it today instead of taking the time to like figure the ins and outs of it. Learn what you can, because if you guys were struggling with like how do we grow these plants and trying to deal with the tax stuff, then you probably wouldn't have survived that. But you're like, all right, we kind of understand the plants. But what goes into the plants is that you said that they need taken care of, like they're a living thing, watered twice a day. Is there any more science to it than that, or soil contents, anything?
Yeah, we can't tell you.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not so much being watered twice a day. I mean, there's always something that needs watered somewhere. I mean, like, you know, it's the edges of the plants that get out near the plastic or what's more out in the sun. But if you're propagating plants and it's through the summertime, you know, if it's a 60-degree day, you may have to miss them once. If it's a 90-degree day, you may find yourself down there every hour or every 45 minutes misting them, you know. That's why it's like a 24/7 or, you know, 7-day-a-week job, you know, when you're propagating. The only thing about watering plants is where you don't have to do as much on the weekend is when you get into like November, December, January. But once February starts going around, the sun's getting a little higher in the sun. The greenhouses are getting up to summer temperatures inside. Things are starting to dry out, you know. But it's through the summer months that was always the hardest part, the demanding of hours and stuff like that on the water side of life, you know.
Yeah.
That's where I always found myself down there like 7 days a week for years and years and years. But you know, as we grew and was able to make more money and do more infrastructure, we got to where we can afford to have computers and misters to do that for us now. So that's
So I think it's important to always be looking at ways to do better and to go out and see people that are in your industry, see how they're doing it.
yeah, we did.
Because for us, I think we just got so caught up in just doing what we were doing that, I mean, we could have put a mister system in years before we did.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was a huge investment. We just never thought about putting a mister system in because, well, this is just what we do. This is what we were learned. This is what we were taught.
Yeah.
And it's what we do. So it's, I think we just didn't always like think, is there a better way to do it? Like, this is great. It works, but is there something better? So we could have bought our freedom and free time a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Had we learned
Right.
that there is maybe another way. Like, one thing I've always asked myself, why did I never have the vision to have 6 all about ground covers? You know, like we just have 1. There are people in our industry that have 50 locations, 100 locations.
Yeah.
We just have 1. Why did my brain ever click and be like, man, we need a all about ground cover west? You know,
Right.
it just didn't happen. I don't know why. But so getting out, meeting people, learning, and seeing how other people do things is I think, extremely important. Can help you be successful quicker. You know, it's easy just to get caught up in the grind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, and I'm not trying to get any industry secrets. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
plants. It's more than just throwing some seeds in the ground and watering them a couple times.
Oh,
a day,
no, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And that's why people don't realize that, I guess. Like, there's so much more to everything. Nothing's as simple as it seems.
Yeah, if everything was 100% rooting and 100% no disease and grow when it should grow and blah blah blah, yeah, everybody be in the nursery business, but it's not that always that easy.
Yeah, everybody would do it. Yeah.
Everybody would do it. Yeah, but
You wouldn't be able to get any employees because of anybody that
yeah.
wanted to do that, they can go do their own thing, but it's not that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other kind of side hustles have you guys got into? I know you came by delivering an animal one day, and I think it was your donkey. And
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the problem with being self-employed is it's hard. Like, I know for me, like every hobby, I always try to turn it into something making money, like being profitable. So it's really just a hobby, having some animals. Next thing you know, you're trying to hustle them, and it's unfortunate kind of that you can't just enjoy and have a hobby and not try to turn it into something, you know. But I mean, geez, when we started the greenhouses years and years and years, we landscaped, we did lawn mowing, we did snow plowing, we did leaf removal, like literally whatever we had to do to keep the lights on. And just because we weren't really taking a livable wage out of the nursery because we wanted to grow the nursery.
Right.
So the money we were making selling plants, we just kept in there to build more greenhouses so we could sell more plants. We still had to eat. So we did a lot of things on the side. And as the company grew, we just, eliminated which ones sucked the most.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
okay, we aren't doing that anymore. You know, and I think the last one we removed was the snow plowing. Maybe it was the landscape. But I mean, we for years we did a lot more than just.
Snowplowing was the first thing that hit the chopping block. That was the first.
That was long.
That's long nights. That's not fun.
Well, it might not snow for months, but you can bet your butt it's going to snow on Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the hay stuff at all?
I
You
got
guys
us.
do that together, or is that?
I got us more or less started into that.
But last time you were down my way, you were talking about getting that lab tested, trying to get it to a certain number. Can you explain that a little bit? I thought that was interesting.
So it's a different way of farming. People can do with their vegetables and stuff like that, doing it more like of a natural way or an organic way. Is because it raises the food value. Say, like, if someone wants to grow their gardening or they want to grow green beans, and it's going to take 2 or 3 years though for your soil to unlock the micronutrients in the soil. But if you did a test on your green beans and it tested at 4 bricks, and then when you get and you plant those beans in that same area, like 2 or 3 years later, as you improve your soil and unlock the micronutrients, like I'm saying, your brick could go up to like 12, okay? Which means now you can eat less of those and get more out of it. Same way with the hay. It's just all about unlocking the micronutrients that's in the soil and stuff like that, versus like if you're doing like the dry fertilizer, okay? Dry fertilizer or granular fertilizer, which is synthetic, is going to have bad iron and bad salts and stuff like that going down with that. So that's what we're trying to which is holding back your soil. So trying to do it a more natural way is to, is to up your micronutrients in your soil. Because if you have a lot of organic matter in your soil, that for every, I don't know how it's rated though. I don't know if it's on the percentage though. There's like 10,000 pounds of nitrogen, say far as for like hay, in every number of your your organic matter, So that's sort of, and then I'm looking to get my feed value up to around 130 to 160. So if I'm trying to improve on the hay making, because we grow for our own animals, but I'm thinking about maybe getting into having a few beef cows and raising beef cows just for me, because that meat will be better,
So that's where the organic meat comes from, then, is by taking the extra
Yeah, I
steps.
mean, you're going to have to buy a cow first and then start feeding that cow with it. That cow will get bred, so that embryo will be getting the better hay, and then it's like, and hopefully she gives us a heifer, then it's being generated, and what would that be for, like, going on in generations? If a cow has a calf, when that calf comes out and that next calf, okay, that's when you really start to notice the difference.
So you kind of create a bloodline,
Yeah.
pedigree almost.
Well, it's about
Healthier genetics.
how healthier you'll get a healthier genetics out of once you start feeding. But it's gonna take you a couple cycles to get there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then so that meat that's being grown in that cow is going to be a much healthier meat for us to consume.
Okay, so that first cow that you're starting with, giving the good feed to, you're not going to see much of a difference, but kind of as it goes down the line.
Right. It's all about getting into the genetics of her offspring, and then and time to get into her offspring is the next offspring that you really notice the difference, because that mother now has been fed that from her being an embryo. You know what I mean? Okay, and then she gives birth. Then her calf is where you really notice the difference.
Okay.
Interesting.
So do you have any insight into the whole organic market right now? Like, I see all this stuff online about, like, vegetables in particular, like, they say they're organic, but they're not, or there's no real benefit to going organic. I mean, being in this field, do you guys have any insight into that?
We've never really played around in that area. I know oftentimes it's just kind of a play on words. So like you can use hydrogen peroxide as a cleaning agent and still consider your plants organic. But if you buy a product from a chemical company that the if the ingredient is hydrogen peroxide,
Yes.
now it's not organic.
Right.
You know, and so it's you just, I don't know, it's just a difficult thing to wrap your head around and to know what truly is organic and what is not. You know, so a lot of people can say, well, my cows are all grass fed. Well, that's great, but what's in the grass?
If somebody's looking to, I guess, one of two things: either somebody's looking to get into this industry, or somebody's feeling stuck in a small town. Like, what's a piece of advice that each of you could give them?
Oh, I just think you got to learn to think outside the box, and search out knowledge. Learn as much as you can from everyone around you, and don't be afraid to take chances. Like, I've never left this area ever, and I oftentimes think maybe what life could have held had I been willing to step outside the box and see what the big world had to offer.
Whatever you do, the best getting in started in the nursery business is, or any business, is that don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
Because I think that's foremost one of the biggest mistakes I made getting started was all my eggs in one basket selling to one person.
Yeah.
Because then he kind of like controlled me a little bit. You know what I mean? On how much money I could make because I only was dealing with like one person.
Made that same mistake with our utility company. I focused on one major builder, and then it took so much more time and effort to spread those eggs out after that.
Yeah.
It took years and years to get away from that, to where now we're just finally getting to that point where, like, all right, if we have a bad week with them, like, we can still make our payroll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's taking some risk and some chances, and then trying not to harm that relationship along the way too.
Yeah.
So
And we've always had like a slight increase in profit, or not profit, but a slight increase in product. You know what I mean? Raising our prices for sale, and our incomes has always gone up, or the money we've generated has always gone up every year from 93 until 2008, and then again until basically like 2023 to 25, I guess, where we had like a slight decline because we're no longer doing like Lowe's stores and stuff, but because of how that all played out during COVID, you know. But
so I guess you guys are directly affected by the housing market and the economy and stuff like that. Like,
because we grow,
I wouldn't think that you would be, but now that hearing how you guys do it and who your clients are,
Yeah.
definitely affected.
It's all-
Yeah, we've transitioned more into the commercial end of things, kind of just accidentally through the years. So that market doesn't seem to be quite as easily affected because, you know, the big commercial projects are years in planning. So the retail or the residential end of things is definitely tough because, you know, when interest rates are high and jobs are bad, people don't build. So the commercial end of it seems to be a little bit more consistent.
Okay. The one last question that I like to end it on is once I figured out my definition, it had a huge impact on how I run my businesses and how I run my life altogether. For each of you guys, how do you define success?
I think everybody has their own definition of that. For me,
right.
I just
It's
want freedom.
it's kind of like on your shirt, but not on your shirt. It's like, you know, stay broke. It's how do you define success? Not going broke.
Yeah.
That's how I define success.
Being able to provide for your family.
Yeah.
And for me, it's freedom. I like freedom. I like to be
Yeah.
involved with my kids and coaching and donating time and things like that. And I have the freedom to do that. So that, to me, that is success. You know, I have more money than month, which is great, you know, and wasn't like that for most of my life. And I have free time.
Yeah. Other advice I could give is like when we were getting started, I had not family friends, but just had friends in general that would be willing to lend me money, but a high interest rate because I couldn't go to the bank because I didn't take the time to approach the bank to see about like a line of credit, to see what I could afford. You mean, but even when you're getting started out, I don't think that avenue would have been there for me because, you know, the bank want to see like, you know, I'm not a college educated person, but I learned by the school of hard knocks. But I would try and have get a financial plan started and know where your money's going to come from to get started. Because that was another holdback from us, is just like borrowing money from personal friends and then paying back too much money in interest to get started. And it was like that was a little bit of a hurt too that way. But not that we didn't have difficult years along the way, but it's nice only having to walk 2 minutes to work.
Yeah.
That's the nicest part about being self-employed, being able to walk across the yard, go to work, and then come back home.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to end it, unless I'm missing something.
I think we covered it pretty well.
Awesome.
I hope it turns out well
Thanks for
you.
your time.